I said, did you assholes kidnap Mark? I said again even louder when the room went silent. Who's Mark? Charisse asked, currently struggling to help Wolf Tegan find somewhere to rest. The Mark, I answered, Milo still dangling from my hand. The who? What are you saying to me? Well, it's funny you should ask. You see, these fuckwits, I exclaimed, using Milo as a pointer as I gestured to the rest of the room's occupants. We're supposed to be running a con on this guy, Mark, while me and Tegan were shacking up with the mad scientist getting the weapons made. I explained as I shot pissy looks at everyone in the room. For fuck's sake, if someone's out there, please help me! The voice pleaded again. Oh my god, did you guys really kidnap somebody? Charisse asked, with audible concern in her voice. It's starting to look that way, I growled, making my way towards the garage, dragging Milo along the floor behind me, as I stomped through the house and snatched open the garage door to reveal a man bound to one of the steel support beams by a bike lock, looped around his neck. Oh, now what in the goddamn Breaking Bad hell is this shit? I screamed at everyone. Oh, thank God! You, girl! Please get me out of this. I won't tell anybody a thing, I swear. Just let me go! Mark begged as soon as he saw me. Oh wow, you guys really kidnapped someone. Charisse spoke up from the back of the group, attempting to help Tegan get close enough to witness the spectacle herself. Alright, look! Milo shouted, standing up off the floor and straightening his shirt. I tried the way we planned, okay? He was just smarter than we all thought. My facade was seamless, but he saw through it. No, it wasn't, Mark said from his pole in the garage. I was on to him after like a day. He's the worst actor I've seen. You shut your mouth, you liar! Milo shouted, trying to make his way around me to get to Mark. Just admit I had you fooled. You literally asked me where the vampire hideout was like 6 times after we met. How subtle can you be? Mark snickered. If you were smart, you would have tried to befriend me slowly and gradually hint wanting to get in on something more profitable and off the books. Dipshit. Oh dear God, I sighed, rubbing my temples to calm the building migraine. None of you here were watching him or giving him advice or anything? Well, none of us have exactly run a con before. Hey, don't look at me, Gay Jake said once I turned towards him. I'm the sugar daddy here. I ain't these little hooligans' babysitter. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, have you at least got anything out of him so far? Not exactly, Leslie answered. He hasn't been very cooperative since he got here. I suggested we don't feed him, and then when he gets hungry enough he'll tell us something, but, what's her face, the short one? Milo said, pointing at Joanna. She said, oh, we can't do that, it's torture, whatever. Because it is torture, you unbearable ass, Joanna yelled back at Milo, swatting his hand away. Oh dear Lord, child, I've been dealing with this ever since you left. They been at each other's throats 24/7. My anxiety medication is running too low for any more of their shit. Gay Jake said, pulling Joanna away from Milo and positioning her at the other side of the room where we had gathered and were now staring into the garage. So we don't know any— So are you gonna let me out or what? Hey, shut it! One more word and I'll feed you to Tegan, I replied. What's a Tegan? He asked nervously. Tegan managed to raise her head up over the crowd to investigate the mention of her name. Mark took one look and hit full tilt panic. Oh, what the fuck is that? What the— He gagged as he temporarily forgot he was attached at the neck to the support pole and snatched his feet out from under him as he made an attempt at fleeing the side of Tegan. Everyone took a moment to giggle a bit as Mark sat resting against the pole trying to catch his breath. Yeah, he hasn't said a word that wasn't him complaining about something. Every single one of us took turns questioning him, but he'd just belch in our face or pull his pants down and shit on the floor whilst we were talking. He added, and everyone murmured in agreement, sharing their own personal Mark interrogation story. Maybe if I give it a try, he'll— I'm not gonna tell you shit, so you might as well let me go, you dumb cunt! Now, I think we are all aware that some people have that one word, that one particular word that, when you call them that, all bets are off. It misses the skin entirely and goes straight for your very last nerve. Well, Mark had managed to springboard off of my good graces directly onto my last nerve with that one. So just keep that in mind before you judge me for what I'm about to tell you. Okay? Okay. You want to run that by me again there, Chief? I said after taking as deep a breath as possible. I said, you might as well turn me loose, you dumb cunt. I ain't telling you dick. He spat at me. Okay, guys, I'm gonna need just a minute here with our guest. I hummed to the group, now all quiet as church mice. Just 1 minute, I assured them, stepping into the garage and closing the door behind me as gingerly as possible. Oh, so scary. I still ain't telling you shit. Anyway, you know what those suckers would do to me if they found out I talked? Mark asked gingerly. You like Mother Goose? I asked him, still facing the door. Mother what? Mother Goose. You know, the nursery rhymes? I asked again, now turning to face him, grinning my biggest grin and licking the points of my teeth that I now noticed to get longer and sharper over the past few seconds. On that, all the color and snideness left Mark's face as his eyes widened. I didn't have to take more than about half a step in his direction before the information superhighway was open for business. His eyes were wide as dinner plates as he started singing like a bird. What do you want to know? I'll tell you where they are. I'll tell you where they go, where they live, where they deal, where my girlfriend lives, where my mama lives, her social security number, she's got a credit card, anything. I'll tell you anything. But you haven't answered my first question. Do you like Mother Goose? The rage autopilot that had taken over asked once more. I don't know what you're talking about, lady! Oh, everyone knows Mother Goose. My parents, before they started beating me raw every day, used to tell me the rhyme every night before I went to sleep. I cooed softly, still slowly making my way towards him. What? You some kind of dyke or something? He said, apparently deciding to roll off the exposed nerve and onto another. After closing my eyes and taking another deep breath, I walked up to him and took his right hand in mine. They held my hand just like this, and then they'd count my fingers. This little piggy went to market. What the hell are you doing? He whined, trying to pull his hand away without success. I continued squeezing his hand tighter. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy got roast beef. And this little piggy, well, this little piggy right here. Snap! I snatched his hand up in my mouth and bit his pinky off before he had time to flinch. As he rolled around and screamed, clutching his bleeding hand, I took time to chew the detached digit up, savoring every crunchy sensation. Surprised that it wasn't anywhere near as unpleasant as I expected. The crowd in the house had begun to beat on the door and tried to twist the locked knob to get in and examine the commotion. But as that went on, I leaned down next to the now sobbing Mark. I spoke into his ear. 9 little piggies left, Mark. Now here's the situation. I ask you something. You give me an answer. If it checks out, I come back and make your time here a little more comfortable after every question. If it doesn't, I've recently acquired a taste for little piggy. Understand? I unlocked the door and made my way out of the garage as everyone else poured in behind me. I told Charisse she could leave right after I got our bags and the box out of her SUV. So we helped Tegan to her and Milo's room upstairs, then went out to get our things out of the car. He said you ate his finger! Joanna shrieked in my face as I walked back to the door. Slanderous lies, I lied, grinning a dishonest grin, now that I felt my teeth seemed back to normal. He said you ate his finger, Milo said, retrieving a first aid kit from the kitchen cabinet. Nice! He added, giving me a thumbs up, causing him to fumble with the kit across the living room floor. I used the distraction to sidestep Joanna and search for a place to set the heavy pine battle box. Knowing Gage Ake would bury me alive if I broke his favorite table again, long story, I just plopped it down on the couch and watched gravity slowly pull it deep down into the plush cushions. Okay, you can hit the road now if you want. Or stay and rest for a while if you prefer, I told Charisse as she came in with mine and Tegan's bags. I appreciate that. But I think I want to make my way out of the hostage situation as soon as possible, she said with a laugh. But I can maybe say goodbye to Tegan before I go? She asked. I think she'd like that very much, I answered with a smile as I turned to lead her back up to the room. Milo was already on the bed next to her, both arms around her airy shoulders, comforting her as she breathed heavily, as if she were exhausted and trying to catch her breath. I stood at the door as Charisse walked over to the bed and put her arms around her shoulders with Milo. It was nice to meet you. I hope I see you again sometime when you feel better. As I walked her to her car, we stopped next to Gay Jake on the way out. Tegan's phone got the fare notification, but it should pop up in your email in your recent charges, Charisse said, waving her phone with the Server app open on the screen. The return trip was on me, so that should help the cost a lot. Oh, honey, that shouldn't be a problem. Just go and get yourself home safe now, you hear? He said as he pulled out his own phone and started checking his emails. Charisse had already told me bye and was out the door when he found the email. What? Are you kidding me? How much? Oh God, I think I'm gonna throw up. Girl, hold on to me, my legs are going numb. He cried as he looked to the charge on his account. Things finally settled down after they patched up Mark's hand and Gay Jake managed to recover from his 6-digit Server fare charge. We all managed to discuss everything and we got caught up. But first, we'd open the lethal Christmas presents to take the edge off. Who doesn't like opening stuff, right? So we all gathered around the couch where the pine box rested. As I opened the lid, my mace was sitting on top. So I removed it and handed it to Trey, who almost dropped it from the sudden unexpected weight. Shit, that looked a lot lighter when you were holding it, he grunted, sitting it off to the side with a dull thud. The rest of the weapons were all wrapped in thick brown paper, woven in amongst the web of gold-fashioned packing straw. Each had a small white card with the owner's name written on it, except one which came with what looked like an entire note wrapped around it. Knowing that could only belong to Dex, I decided to avoid that one as long as possible. First, I picked up Trey's and handed it to him to unwrap. As I matched the names to the owners, I handed them out. Milo finally came down the stairs to join the rest of us. Hey, where's mine? He complained. You're a werewolf, remember? Your part in the plan is to maim and cause chaos as a giant wolf monster, then we use the weapons. Yeah, stupid, Joanna quipped. Okay, seriously, what is it with you two? I asked as they both cut their eyes at one another. Oh, and here's yours, Dex, with the paper around it, I said, finally handing Dex his, as he tore off the note and began to read it. As he did, you could see his expression on his face change to one of a child being scolded by his parents. What's it say? Nothing, Dex responded, trying to ball up the paper and stuff it in his pocket, but Trey managed to wrestle it away and read it out loud. Dear Dex, I have no idea what you expected me to do with your picture, so I made a judgment call. I hope it's to your liking. Also, I can tell you're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so please try to refrain from doing anything too stupid that might get your friends hurt during this little endeavor of y'all's. Signed, your good buddy, Hep. Well, that's pretty spot on. Trey giggled, tossing the piece of paper over his shoulder. Now look, y'all are gonna have to clean all of this up, Gay Jake said, walking into the living room and retrieving the note off the floor. He gestured to the packing straw scattered everywhere. I mean, not a single one left on the floor. Anyway, how's Tegan doing? I asked Milo. She's gonna be okay. It's just gonna take her a few days to get back to her normal self. She just needs to get a lot of food and water, have some peace and quiet. Oh, and she's probably gonna need a bathroom to herself while her body metabolizes all the extra werewolf mass. Good, I was worried about her, I said, as everyone started unwrapping their packages. Dex managed to get his first, revealing a dagger of sorts, but shaped like a pistol. Close enough, I guess, he said, examining the curious object. Trey opened his next. His contained a small axe, or a tomahawk, I think it's called. Then Leslie, who unwrapped what I immediately recognized as something that looked similar to a demon-killing knife from Supernatural. Everyone else apparently noticed it too, as that show was one of the things we all shared a bond over. We always get together on Thursdays to catch new episodes. Really? I asked sarcastically. I couldn't think of anything else, plus I always wanted one, she said with her face turning red. Joanna went after, The package she opened contained a very plain-looking object. It seemed to be a spike with 3 sides and 2 large discs on the top and bottom of the handle. "The hell is that?" Trey asked her. "It's a rondel. I was watching the History Channel the day before they left and I saw it on there. So I decided that's what I wanted." "Fair enough," Trey said, turning to Jasmine, who was the only one who hadn't opened hers yet. As she tore through the paper, it sounded like something was clanging together inside the wrapping. When she finally moved the last shreds of paper out of the way, we could all see that there was in fact 2 separate pieces. It looked like a spear that you could take apart, but there were also symbols that seemed familiar as well. "What are those engravings?" Dex spoke up. "Oh, well, you guys know that my dad's Polynesian, right? They're the same as my tattoo," Jasmine said, pulling the collar of her t-shirt to the side to show us the traditional Polynesian tattoo on her shoulder. "This spear looks like a Polynesian one too," she added proudly. "How did that guy make all of this so fast? Seems like a lot for such a short time. And this doesn't even look like he half-assed it. This stuff is real nice," he added, closely inspecting his new axe. "I don't think he's just your run-of-the-mill guy," I said to Trey, remembering all the strange events from my time at his home. It was as I remembered that I noticed another piece of paper sticking out from the packet of straw. So I reached down and slid it out. It was another note that read, "Thank you two for coming. I like Tony just fine, but he's, well, Tony. I haven't had visitors in a while, so it's nice to have you guys around. So to thank you, please accept this small token of my gratitude. Just remember to oil it up every now and then, and they like to rest in dark spaces like corners and attics. They make a hell of a security system and automatically know who is and ain't supposed to be somewhere. They can lift and support up to 4,000 pounds, so don't be afraid to push it. I feel like it'll be helpful sooner than you might think. Thanks again, and don't be a stranger. Hap." "The hell is he talking about?" Milo asked. It didn't occur to me at first, but by the time it did, before I could form the words to explain, one of those metal tripods from Hap's house erupted from the box, scattering packing straw everywhere as it did. It hit the floor with a loud metallic clang. Everyone in the room came about 3 inches off the ground all at once, then stood in shock, staring at the thing as it shifted in place, seemingly taking in its new environment. Seconds later, it bolted, scurrying around the room like lightning, its metal legs pounding on the carpet floor as it went. Thud, 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 we heard, as it bounced off the wall and furniture trying to make its way around the room. Dex climbed up on the back of the couch like a cat when it started to get too close to him. Suddenly it stopped in the center of the room for a moment. Then it took off over the couch, causing Dex to squeal and dive for the floor. And down the hall it went before ricocheting off the back wall and cutting a hard left into the open garage. "Ah! What the fuck is that? What the fuck is going on in this house?" we heard Mark shriek. We all paused for a moment before cackling in laughter. "I'll explain later," I giggled. "And you guys might all want to keep these things close," I added as they all inspected their new toys. "Me and Tegan had a serious run-in last night before we came back. That's why she's like she is now, so we need to keep ready just in case." "I hope they kick the doors in and nick every last one of you freaks!" Mark yelled from the garage, followed by the tink 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 flap tink 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 noise of the tripod smacking Mark quiet on our behalf, then retreating back to its corner. "Okay, I'm really starting to like that thing," Milo said with a smile. "You would," Jonah barked at him. "Eat me!" "Shut up or I'm locking both of you in there with Mark," I warned. "Now, like I said, we have to be careful with those vampires. They're looking for us hard, and it's real easy to not pay attention and lead them back here." After that, we all spent several hours discussing what happened at Hap's house, what to do with Mark, and what to do once we figured out where the vampires were. Once we reached the end of the conversation, we all decided to depart into our own rooms for the night. As I started to make my way up to the stairs, Gay Jake stopped me. "Not you, sugar tits. You stay down here with me for a second." So I kissed Jasmine on the forehead and told her to go up, before walking back to Gay Jake. "You too, American Werewolf, in my guest room," Gay Jake added. "Get your ass back down here." "Ooh, Milo's in trouble," Joanna quipped before Milo chucked one of the pillows off the couch directly at her. "All right. You said you fixed her," he said, jamming a finger into Milo's sternum.
So why's she getting Wonder Woman strong and eating people's fingers in my garage?
Well, I thought I did. But I never actually tried it before. Never heard of anyone trying it. Just kinda took a shot in the dark.
Are you serious? You weren't even sure it would work? I yelled, stumping towards him.
Well, I mean, it kinda worked. It kinda did at least.
Well, if it worked, then why is her shitty attitude getting even shittier and monstery?
Gay Jake asked him. I'm not really sure. I guess that it's possible the vampire virus might have mingled with my werewolf antibodies whilst it was in the infectious phase, and that changed the pathology of both of them, and maybe she ended up getting Michael Corvin somehow, Milo guessed.
Who's Michael Corvin?
The blue guy from Underworld, Milo and I answered simultaneously.
So you think I might be part werewolf now?
Asked Milo. You might be, I can't say for sure. There hasn't really been a whole lot of in-depth scientific studies on the interaction between vampire and werewolf DNA, as you might imagine. But your eyebrows have got pretty thick since you last left, and you don't exactly look as frail as when we first met. But that might be because I was 7 feet tall, and you had pee running down your leg.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, look. You don't eat people, and you be nice,
Jake said, pointing to me and Milo.
Now, I'm tired, I just want to go to bed. You get that little metal thing and keep watch down here if you want, but it better behave, he continued. Why the hell am I telling the werewolf to be nice and her not to eat people? What is happening in my home? He said to himself as he walked away. He mumbled more to himself, but I couldn't make it out as he reached the stairs. Then me and Milo both made our own way up the stairs together once we made sure the tripod was making its rounds in the garage, and that the garage door was locked. I can't believe you actually ate a guy's finger, Milo whispered to me as we climbed the staircase. That's pretty epic. Please don't talk about it. I don't want to think about having that dude's chewed up finger sit in my stomach. Yeah, it's still got the fingernail and everything too. That's pretty gross. He joked with a grin, knowing exactly what he was doing. What if that was his favorite nose-picking finger? Oh, God!
I said, covering my mouth, bolting for the bathroom. I made it just in time to explode the contents of my belly into the toilet yet again. I made sure my eyes were closed tight to keep from seeing the mangled digit. That's payback for throwing me around like an action figure, Milo said, leaning against the doorway. Fair enough, I sighed, resting my head in my hands. Then I heard the sink run as Milo dampened a towel with cold water and gave it to me, putting it on my forehead. I remember thinking at the time that he was starting to grow on me. He might be an idiot and a clown, but he was like a big brother I always wanted. Okay, get yourself cleaned up and go see Jasmine. She's been missing you ever since you left. It's just about all she's talked about, he told me before making his way out from the bathroom. Do you believe in werewolves, Doctor? I asked as he started to leave. He paused for a second. I believe a man, lost in the maze of his own mind, may imagine that he's anything. He finished the quote before glancing over his shoulder and smiling back at me. Something about that moment in the realization that a real-life werewolf had seen the Wolfman so many times that he could quote it brought me all kinds of joy. He then made his way around the corner and out of my sight. Bleh! I burped loudly, almost puking again. Listen to them, I heard Milo call from down the hall. Children of the night, what music they make, he said in his best Dracula impression, which was surprisingly good. Once I got my shit together, I finally made it to the bedroom. I barely had time to open the door before Jasmine lunged at me, wrapping her arms and legs around me, and burying her face in my chest as she did. Oh my God, finally! I missed you so much. Well, I'm back now, I said, blushing as I returned her embrace. We laid on the bed for hours, talking about everything that had happened whilst we were apart. But it's at this point I decided to let Gay Jake take over the section of the story, for reasons you'll soon understand.
Hey y'all, this is Gay Jake, and I'm going to be telling you this stuff on account of the ornery biatch that's been telling it don't actually remember this part. I'm not exactly thrilled about it, and suggested she knew enough about what happened to write it down, but she insisted that this way preserve the integrity of the story as it happened, and begged me to do it. Personally, I think she just didn't want to have to tell this part of the story for reasons you'll soon understand before long. You see, It all started once she got back and we thought everything had finally settled down a bit. Last I knew, she was up in her room with that Jasmine girl doing God knows what, and I was trying to get a little bit of rest for the first time since she left. But now, as I start to get good and settled, I hear this god-awful scream from downstairs. So naturally, I peeled my little biscuit hooks out of the ceiling and took off downstairs. At that point, the rest of the ghoul school was dashing out of their rooms too.
What was that?
Dex said after almost breaking his leg on the bottom step. I love that boy, bless his heart. I don't know how he made it this far being as clumsy as he is.
It sounded like it came from the garage,
Milo said. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Joanna spat at Milo, which apparently motivated Milo to trip her as she tried to run past him. Those two been ready to fight each other for the past week and a half at that point, and I was about ready to kill both of them. I looked around and noticed that aside from Tegan, who was trying to recover in her bed, we were missing someone. Hey Jasmine, where's... But before I was able to finish, that question was answered itself. By the time I got to the garage, I saw it was Cousin all the ruckus. That rabid little shit was basically on top of Mark, who was just barely keeping her at bay with one leg that looked to have a bite taken out of it. The boy was shrieking and hollering as she had every finger on her left sunk deep into his thigh, and she was pulling herself closer and closer to his face, snapping her blood-stained teeth all the while. Right about there was a whole lot of commotion, and I don't think any of us got a real vivid memory of what exactly happened. But the gist of it was we collectively managed to get her off a very traumatized Mark. We went through 2 bike locks and several different types of ropes before Trey remembered that he had some kind of special Kevlar rope in his car. I think he was a climber or something. We had Jasmine run and get it whilst each of us were wrapped around a limb and held out for our dear little lives. While we were waiting, she took this time to reinvent profanity as an art form all its own. Boy, does that woman have a mouth on her that would make Linda Blair cringe. She had the most crazed look I had ever seen. I could barely recognize the girl in front of me. Finally, Trey got her tied up good enough with that rope to a steel support beam that she wouldn't be able to wriggle herself free. About 5 seconds later, we realized we had tied her to the same steel support beam as Mark, and had to get him off of that one to another one before she bit another plug out of him. Lucky for us, the blood loss made him a lot more cooperative than usual. That super special Kevlar rope lasted all but 30 seconds before her strong, for no reason ass, managed to break through it. We were all sure that was our asses right there. But about that time, I heard a loud, tinky, scuttling sound heading our way. Before I knew what was going on, that creepy metal thing from the box jumped across the room and wrapped its 2 legs around her arms and around the sport beam. This time the thing wasn't budging at all, and we finally felt a little safe. After we patched the holes in Mark's leg, we managed to move back into the den and tried to commiserate on our newest pile of horse shit we had managed to deal with. Naturally, we were all looking at our resident Wolfman pirate.
I got nothing,
he confessed once he realized all the eyes were on him.
Like I already said, best guess is that my werewolf cells mixed with her vampire cells in the blood and settled on something in the middle,
he said with his hands raised defensively.
Just thought that my saliva would stop the infection. It by itself isn't supposed to turn people, so I'm not exactly sure what happened.
Clang! The sharp sound of a fire iron being smashed across Milo's head rang across the room.
Ow! Fuck! Damn it, Joanna!
Milo yelled, turning to face the person who struck him, just to see that it wasn't Joanna, but instead Jasmine, who was very distraught with tears running down her face as she clutched the bent fire poker.
Oh, Jasmine, I'm sorry. I didn't know this was...
Tried to say. I don't want you to apologize. I want you to fix her right now, Jasmine cried, rearing the fire iron back to get ready to swap Milo again before Leslie was able to snatch it out of her hands. We're gonna figure this out, she said, tossing the poker down and wrapping her arms around Jasmine. At this point, I think we're all starting to get a bit emotional, so I just had to open my big mouth. All right, everyone. Maybe we're just blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Maybe she just had a little episode and she'll be back to normal once she has a second to calm down. I went on, scooting my way to the garage as I talked. Hey, sweetie, you okay out there? I asked, sticking my head through the door. To which the little snarling darling replied, and I believe this is verbatim.
"Untie me or I'm gonna suck your eyeballs out of your skull!"
Once my ears stopped ringing, I walked back over to everyone. Okay, so we might have a bit of a problem, I said, and a problem we surely have. Right then and there, we had one werewolf down, Hannibal Lecter in the garage next to a hostage she had tried to eat for a midnight snack. Lita was a half a world away with nothing close to a signal, and a gang of vampires running around looking for us. What are we supposed to do now? Jasmine whimpered. She was trying to pull herself together. After a little thinking, all I could come up with was an honest answer. I don't know, sugar. I don't know.